Michael, could you just start by saying what is behind this record supply of U.S. municipal bonds for December for the past 30 days, and why are people just buying so much?
So what's behind the supply is basically the way the Senate and the House bills line up is they would eliminate something called advance refunding bonds. So it's basically the option for an issuer to refinance their bonds before the call date. So the threat of that going away seems to have caused a lot of issuers to kind of bring forward some supply in order to take advantage of that provision before it goes away. There's also some evidence that, at least in the House version of the bill, private activity bonds, which allow hospitals and higher education institutions to issue bonds, that could go away. The Senate doesn't have that provision in it, but some issuers probably brought forward some of their supply they would have issued in 2018 because of that.
So given the fact that the House and Senate bills are likely to remove some of the SALT deductions, which we were talking about in the past block, this could hurt certain municipalities. I'm wondering, are investors taking that into account at all?
So there's a really great debate about this. I mean, some investors are. The obvious problem that this creates is there's a concern that for your high tax states, you eliminate that deduction, you disincentivize tax earners from living in those states, i.e. could you have people from New York, New Jersey, California leave and go to Alabama and Texas? In our view, we think that concern is a little bit overblown. Whether you look at kind of the academic research from the demographers or some of the research that we've done, suggests that wage earners, which is really what we're talking about here, wage earners typically don't move for reasons of tax on its own, just on its own. So said differently, in a kind of a more simple way, if I wanted to save on my tax bill being a New Jersey resident going to Texas, could I call up Morgan Stanley and say, I'm moving my desk tomorrow, I'm going to work from there? How would they feel about that? Probably not so good. If you're an owner of capital, if you're an owner of a company, you can be much more mobile. But because the corporate tax reform isn't creating that same incentive, we don't think necessarily this is going to push jobs that way.